Hey everyone, welcome to my transparent testimony, and may God bless anybody that is seeking to learn from this video. I wanted to discuss today my nicotine addiction and how it started, how I ended it, um, you know, what went through my mind and the difficulty of quitting it. I'll give you a little bit of background about like my addictions and stuff like that. So I wanted to say first that I was an addict for many drugs that people probably have never even heard of, and nicotine was the hardest one to quit out of all of them, like the most difficult, just because of how accessible it was, and how like little of an effect that it gives on the body. For a pleasurable effect, but the effect that is negative for the body that we don't feel until later in the future, it gets more prominent, as time goes on. But you might not even realize that it's the nicotine doing that to you. You might think that it's other issues, and then when you try to alleviate those issues or get rid of them, then you realize that you're still stuck with them and don't know what the next thing is. So then your mind comes up with different things to try and get rid of the symptoms you're feeling, when the whole time it's actually nicotine. So, it started off when I was in high school. No, I think it was before high school, actually. I can't remember now. I think I might have actually been a freshman in high school. But either way, pretty young. I knew this kid who had like a box mod. It was one of the larger vapes. Disposables weren't really a popular thing when I started. And I remember we're all in the bathroom, the boys hanging out in the bathroom, and I could smell, cotton candy, and it smelled like freaking cotton candy. I mean, the vape flavors are pretty accurate, but I remember they were all hitting it in the bathroom. I had heard of a vape at that point, and I was always one of those kids that were like, "Oh, I'll never smoke weed. That would be stupid. I'll never do drugs. That'd be stupid." And I ended up hitting that box mod inside of that bathroom that day that my friend had that. And I remember, like, I was on the ground and I was just laughing. I was very buzzed because it was the first time I ever had hit a box mod, and I was rolling around on the ground. And then I remember I hit it again, and I was walking in the hallway. And when you're first starting vaping, especially at that young of an age, it's like you're doing like a hard drug, when you first start, because stuff is, I wouldn't say moving, but it's kind of got like an intoxicating effect to it. Like, it's hard for you to balance. Vision might be a tad bit blurry, or you're just unfocused on things, making it seem blurry. But I was walking funky down the hallway, and it would last like a full 4 or 5 minutes, because it was my first time using nicotine. And that's kind of where that addiction started. Ever since then, I was seeking it, trying to find it in different places and different friends that, had it. And the Juul came out, and the Juul was like the 50 nic pods. And 50 nic is relatively most commonly the highest nicotine percentage you can get inside of a juice level, but there is higher. But either way, the Juul came out, and it was so hard for me to hit the Juul, so very difficult, because it hurt and it was harsh. But when I started getting the Juul hits, that overpowered the buzz that I had from that box mod, which was probably 6 milligrams of nicotine in that box mod. The Juul 50 obviously was a lot more intense and hit me a lot harder and was a lot more addictive. The flavors also were really tasty, so that made it more addictive. Either way, though, that was a long time ago, as I'm not in high school anymore. I'm out of school, and I'm out of school as of 2020. So yeah, that's 3 years, and I don't know, I was probably on nicotine for at least 6 to 7 years. So the hardest part about nicotine, like I said, was the accessibility of it all. Uh, some of the side effects that I was getting, that I was trying to diagnose for a long time, um, were the depression, anxiety, restlessness, and obviously the constant want to hit nicotine. Unlike a cigarette smoker, if you have the privilege of being able to smoke inside, then you could light a cigarette and smoke inside. Whereas when you are hitting a vape, you can hit it anytime you want, and it's way more nicotine than a cigarette has. So more nicotine and more accessible, easier to hit. But during that time, when I was still, hitting nicotine, I didn't really try to quit, but with all those symptoms obviously getting worse, I don't like to say things are a gateway, because it's everybody's different, but I feel like with those symptoms and that want for that feeling of nicotine, it kind of jumped me into my addiction of other substances, harder substances and stuff like that, just to experience the different feelings that these substances give. And I was a little bit of a psychonaut, trying all the different drugs as much as I could, and it was never like you can just take one drug and be like, oh, I experienced it, because you didn't really know what you were looking for inside of that high. So you would take it again, take it as many times as you could, and then you would find, things that are good and bad about that drug in order to understand that full experience. But nicotine was one that lasted a long time. Like I said, I quit all drugs, everything, multiple times actually. But nicotine stuck with me the most. Now, the disposables, those are extremely flavorful. The Mr. Vapors, the tiny little sticks, those didn't have much flavor. It felt like they did, and they tasted like they did when they first came out. But every single time I wanted to quit nicotine, a new flavor would come out, and it was way more powerful, and it would hit way better. And, these disposables, got to the point where they were, use them for 500 hits and throw them away, to where now they have 6,000 hits, and you can recharge it. And if you're smart enough, you can pull them apart and load some more juice into it. So the disposables were like $15 for this way more flavorful, way more powerful device. And don't get me wrong, I loved nicotine. I loved the vaping community. It was a fun, addictive community. And obviously that was what made it a lot harder to get out of it. But I had a friend, and he told me, you need to quit smoking weed. You need to quit nicotine. I've known God, for a long time, and mostly all of my life. And I've known God, and he tells me this, and I didn't really want to listen to him. And he sent me a video of weed, and the weed was just about how weed can open doors to demons and allow spiritual negativity inside of your life unknowingly, and how that was used ritually before it's now legal. And in later testimony videos, I'll talk about how deep I was into drugs, but today we're just talking about nicotine. So I had quit the weed. That was pretty easy. I didn't want to, obviously, but after I learned about the spiritualism behind it and what it affects, then it was pretty easy to quit. Now, I didn't ever see anything like that for nicotine, but there's different stages to quitting nicotine. You could cold turkey and become a woman for a while, and your emotions will be spiked. That's what I mean by that. By becoming a woman, your emotions will be spiked, and you get aggravated or sad easier, and lack of motivation, energy. But I was already having that. Not the emotional stuff really, but mostly lack of motivation, no energy, anxiety, and stuff like that as well. I had a lot of that because of the nicotine, and I'm sure other drugs played into that as well. But after I quit weed, I was only on the nicotine, hadn't done anything else, and I was trying to get rid of that throat hit, and the throat hit is what's really addictive, because you can move down to a zero nic juice and you're not getting that same feeling inside of your throat when you're hitting 50 nic, which is realistically, it's your lungs suffocating, and that's what the addictive feeling of the throat hit is called from the vape. And you couldn't get that suffocation feeling from zero nic. So every time I tried going down to zero nic, it didn't work. It wasn't satisfying, and I would just go back to using, nicotine juice. And then another thing was the habit of bringing your hand from your side up to your mouth to hit the vape. So it's that hand motion is also, embedded in your brain of using nicotine. So it's kind of difficult to quit if you're not doing this motion. And so I bought this little, it's just a piece of plastic, but you put essential oils on it, and there's no smoke or anything. And it has like this little, it's like a valve. It's like an air valve. So like when you suck the air valve, it like opens up and then closes, but when it does that, it makes like a popping sound. So you're just inhaling air with, flavored from essential oils. And you could look up essential oils and see which ones help with addiction and whatnot. I also don't know how healthy that is, as those are extracts from different fruits or, other, you know what I'm saying. But I would use those for a while. It was a crappy little piece of equipment, and it would break, and I'd have to get a new one. But eventually that just got old, and the thing that helped me quit the most was the nicotine pouches. So I found out about nicotine pouches, and I tried, the Zins or the Juice Heads, and then the Zins, they tasted horrible. And I was actually, let me back up a little bit. I tried pouches, I tried gum, and the pouches, they would just leave rashes on my body. It's not an allergic reaction, that just happens until you get used to it. Like if you keep applying it to the same spot, then eventually you just kind of get used to that rash. But you peel it off and then you put a new one on, and you're supposed to like lower each milligram dose of the patch throughout the day. But either way, that didn't work for me. And the gum, that just burnt so badly. My mom actually was helping me out a lot. She gave me this giant pack of gum. There had to have been over 300 pieces of gum with nicotine in it in there. And I just trashed that the other day because I found it in my drawer. But back to the pouches. The pouches, they taste like freaking candy. The Zins, not so much, but like the Juice Heads, they went as high as 12 milligrams per pouch. And you'd put it in between your gum and your lip, and that kind of hurt the first time I did it, but I got really used to it after a while, and it actually like alleviated my want to hit nicotine completely. So like there was times that I would try to go without the vape and go as long as I could, but then I'd be around somebody that had one, and then I'd feel that urge to ask them to hit it. And that wasn't doing me any good. And then after I hit it, I go to the store and buy one. So the pouches really helped. Now if you want to try to just like not hit a vape every once in a while, I'll get this from my closet here. Now make sure my mic is on. Yep. Okay. So what I'm going to show you is like if you're trying to only hit your nicotine, every once in a while, you're only trying to do that a little bit. I'm going to move this so I don't mess up the mic. But so I found a lockbox, and this is the lid for it. It's got like these mechanics. You set the timer, however long you want it to be locked away for. This is really good for cell phones too. But set the timer for however long you want it to be locked away for, and when you press lock, it does not open at all until that timer goes off. So I started off real small, a couple hours, then I let it unlock, hit it once, and then put it away, lock it again. Now I got to the point where after it would unlock, after that timer would run out, I would get the vape out, and I wouldn't put the vape back in for a while of hitting the vape. And there's like something in my freaking eye, probably my dog's hair. But I built up the guts for one day to unlock this. Not unlock this, to set a long time to not hit the vape. I put my 2 vapes in there, and like I just locked it for like 2 days, and I actually craved it so bad, my inner crackhead unleashed, and I completely destroyed it. Like, I pried it apart, and it still works. I could put it back together, but yeah, I destroyed it because I was craving it so badly, which is horrible. Obviously, I had a pretty serious addiction there, but I found those pouches, and then I was able to throw my vapes away, and I was, for a while, I was like, oh, just one last hit, and I'd toss it, and then I'd crave it, and then I'd dig it back out of the trash can to hit it again, and eventually my roommate, he took the trash away after a couple of days. Like, he didn't know I was digging in the trash can to hit it, but he took the trash out, so I no longer could dig into the trash. And every time I would like dig it out, and I'm like, and then I feel guilty, and I just toss it in the trash. I'm like, why would you do that? And then, I would keep repeating that. So the pouches, they helped me a lot, like an immense amount of help. And I found those juice heads, and they had 12 milligrams. So my goal was to start with 12 milligrams and move down to 6, and then because juice head only has 12 and 6, and then I moved from 6 down to 3, and I found some that were 4, and I went to 4, and then I went to 3, and I went back up to 6, and I was fluctuating a lot. And if I had 3s, I would throw 3 of them in my mouth, so that's 9. And it wasn't good. And then the other day, a couple weeks ago, I went to this grad party, and they were all smoking weed, which weed does not tempt me at all anymore. Vapes don't tempt me anymore, but nicotine pouches I was still using. And I saw them all, hitting the weed, drinking a little bit, using the vapes, and I don't know what it did to me exactly. I saw other people I don't know what the word is, but I saw other people like, doing the things I didn't want to do. And it really made me want to quit it, just completely get rid of the nicotine. Like I kind of put it into like a more of a competitive mindset. I was like, dude, I can be better than them. I don't have to do that at all. Like, I will beat them. I will not use nicotine. I will be better than this. So that night, I'm driving to my friend's house, and he was passenger in my car, and he's like, we're talking about God. I'm always talking about God, but I was like, I want to quit the nicotine. Like, I just want to be done with it. He's like, you should throw them out. As soon as we get home, you should throw them out. And so that's exactly what I did. And it was funny. He's like, you should piss in it. And so I put them all inside of this one thing, and I just pissed inside of it. And I took a picture of it. So there's just a bunch of different pouches inside of a pouch container with yellow piss in it. But that was just for craps and giggles. And I flushed them, threw them away. And that was the last time I used them. And it was actually very easy to quit. It was after using the nicotine pouches for that long, and I had that motivation, it was really easy to quit. Now, if you're someone that's trying to use the pouches, try to, lower the dose, start high or whatever is comfortable with you, and lower the dose continuously. And I'll actually show you something that I'm using now, which this is just helpful. Make sure my mic is on. Yep, okay. So I quit all the pouches, and this is actually something I wanted to try before. Now I found these here, and they look like pouches. They are pouches, same pouch container and everything, and it's got those, but there's no nicotine, no tobacco or anything like that, and it's just like nootropics. And so it's got caffeine, and it's got alpha GPC in it, which is the main reason I got it, was for the alpha GPC, because alpha GPC is really good for the choline, and the choline inside of your mind is what helps you think and perform tasks and everything like that. So I was using these to try and, stay focused and stuff, and it works really well. Now, obviously, I can't throw one in my mouth all the time because it's got 50 milligrams of caffeine in it, so I don't want to be taking that much caffeine. But yeah, that I'll use every now and then. Like if I'm tired, I'll throw one in my mouth, and it doesn't burn like nicotine because it's not nicotine, and it just tastes like mango. Now, those super health freaks out there, I got my friend that's a super health freak, and I respect it. I want to be there someday, but it's got some chemicals in here like acesulfame or acesulfame. I don't know how to say that. Potassium crap, sucralose, microcrystalline cellulose. Either way, it's got some chemicals in there that just aren't relatively healthy for the body, but it's not horribly bad. Much better than nicotine. But yeah, that's how I quit it. It was the pouches, quit the vaping. Now, the day after I quit, my motivation, my energy, I couldn't sleep. It was just so spiked, and I was on fire for God. Like I seriously was like, I go and evangelize with my friend, and we might make a video of that soon, but we go out and tell people about God, and he could tell that I had more energy. I was spiritually connected a lot better, and I felt it too, and I was amazed by how a little substance like nicotine was holding me back that much from my connection to God. It was remarkable, actually, and it's like that effect that weed gives you when you smoke weed for such a long time. You don't have any dreams, or alcohol that does that to people. And then when you quit the alcohol or you quit that weed, you have the craziest dreams. That's how it was for me, but with my spiritual connection to God. And, it feels great being off of it completely. It really does feel great. I've had a couple of cravings, don't get me wrong, but obviously with these puppies, I can just stay focused, get on a hobby that I'm doing, like making a video, making music, reading the Bible, whatever it is, at work. And every time that I get that craving, I put it in my head that, this is competition. I'm going to win this. I'm going to beat other people at this. And honestly, I need to do that for my lustful desires. I need to remember this to think of this more as a competition for, all the times that I want to fap or, watch corn. So that's my testimony on how I quit nicotine. If you guys, need any advice or anything, it took me a long time. I was on those pouches for 4 to 5 months, just kind of blowing it off and getting off of them completely. And then that one day I was like, I'm ready, man. I saw that this is competition. I'm going to beat them. And I got it off of it completely. So, it's been really beneficial. I'll talk to you guys about my previous drug addiction and my jail experience, which jail is jail. Everybody knows what jail is, but I was withdrawing off of drugs because they didn't know I was taking drugs. So my entire jail experience, I wasn't actually in jail. I was inside of my head hallucinating like a madman. But yeah, we'll talk about that a different time. So yeah, if you guys learned something from this, let me know in the comment section. Ask me advice if you need it. I hope this is reaching somebody that actually needs this. I don't care about all the other people that, unless they got friends that they can share this with, then I hope that reaches them too. But I want this to help people that are in need of the help, Lord willingly. Thank you for watching today. I love you guys, and until next time, peace out. Mic on? Okay. One more thing I wanted to add to the video. I had stopped it, so this is going to be an addition. A big part of quitting nicotine is not being around people that are using nicotine. I had so many friends. My girlfriend at the time when I first started trying to quit, which I completely failed, and I ended up using nicotine for an entire year after that. Year or two, actually. Yeah, 2 years, actually, after that. It was so difficult seeing other people hit nicotine at first when I was first trying to quit. because it's so accessible. Like I said earlier, you got to be able to. It's much more tempting when you see it in front of your face, when you're sitting in the same car and it's floating around in the air, and you're at work and you're working hard and you're burning calories and you want that feeling of a relaxing hit from a vape. It is so hard to resist that. And if you're stuck in those situations, be stronger. I know how difficult it is, and I seriously failed countless times, hundreds of times when I was quitting. I was asking other people to hit the vape, and it was very difficult when I was around it. But those pouches, and like I said, if you can cold turkey, praise be to you, and praise be to God for giving you that strength, because that takes some balls. But I was not able to, so the pouches helped. And like I said, if you can do without the pouches, do that. But if you need the pouches, I'm positive that is very understandable. So use the pouches, get off of them quickly. Don't be as long as I did. And yeah, just be careful about who you're around. If you got a girlfriend that's doing it, man, I understand how hard that is. That is so difficult. And if you're trying to quit, I don't want to give you the advice you don't want to hear. But if you gotta take a little step away from her for a little bit just to get off of that, then you gotta do that, man. But try to get boyfriend too. If your boyfriend's doing it, I'm sorry, I'm only looking at this from the perspective of a man. This applies to women too. But try to do it together. Be accountability partners together, motivational partners. Do it together. Get off the nicotine. I believe in you guys. Yeah. Peace out, y'all.